What happens when silence breaks hearts more than words ever could? Why did Jungkook pause for 17 seconds before telling Taehyung what he knew? And what did Jimin really endure inside the cold, unforgiving walls of his military camp? In the world of K-pop, few things have shaken fans more than the sudden silence that descended on BTS in recent weeks.
No promocional comeback, no online chaos.
Just silence. Then one message from Jungkook. And the fandom trembled. It wasn't just the words that stung. It was the timing. The weight. The name he spoke. Jimin.it began with whispers in online communities. Whispers of a missing phone call, a medical transfer, a note written in rushed handwriting and tucked into a journal. Then came the cryptic posts, half-deleted stories, and a late-night message Jungkook left in the fan app that was pulled within minutes. But one fan screen recorded it, and everything changed. Why was Taehyung devastated after that call? What did Jungkook say that made him leave his bunk and sit outside in full uniform until sunrise? The answer, it turns out, is more human than anyone could have imagined. And far more painful, because sometimes even idols break at the unseen hours. How the cracks began to show. Before we dive into the chilling phone call between Jungkook and Taehyung, we must go back to the source, the grueling routines of military life, the kind that strips away the shine and reveals only raw endurance. For Jimin, known for his resilience and stoic nature, things seemed to be going well. He smiled in his enlistment photos, even waved cheerfully at fans despite the rain. But behind the scenes, the reality was beginning to warp. South Korea's military training regime is not for the faint of heart. But for someone like Jimin, whose physical limits have been pushed repeatedly for performances, tours, and choreography, this was a new kind of toll, one that didn't reward you with applause. According to an anonymous source station near Jimin's division, the idol struggled silently during the second and third weeks of basic training. He completed every drill, never dropped his weapon, never asked for assistance. But signs emerged. Sudden weight loss, delayed reactions, and what one fellow trainee called a kind of emptiness behind his eyes. It wasn't exhaustion. It was something else. And Jimin didn't tell anyone. The day everything shifted. The weather had been brutal that week. Temperatures plummeted unexpectedly, and drills were extended due to internal evaluations. According to an internal memo obtained by a reporter close to dispatch, one trainee collapsed during a 20-kilometer endurance march. That trainee was not named, but the day after, Jimin was placed on medical observation. Still, the official reports made no mention of a health decline. No media headlines.
No SNS updates.
Only silence. Until Jungkook found out. Sources reveal that Jungkook, who is stationed at a different camp, received a restricted health notice regarding Jimin. The details were vague, and due to military regulations, names aren't typically disclosed. But Jungkook knew. He knew the symptoms described. He recognized the signs. He recognized his best friend. And he also knew that Taehyung had no idea. Jungkook's burden. The decision to break the silence. The call came late at night. Jungkook, reportedly granted temporary phone access after a training achievement, dialed Taehyung. The conversation that followed has since become the subject of speculation and heartbreak among fans. Taehyung answered in his usual cheerful tone, but Jungkook wasn't laughing. The first thing Jungkook said was, "Are you alone?" The second thing he said was, "You need to sit down." Taehyung, according to sources close to him, didn't even ask why. He knew something was wrong the moment Jungkook's voice faltered. And then Jungkook told him. Not in full, just enough to break him. He's not okay, Hyung. What Jungkook revealed in that call is still tightly guarded. But the emotional fallout tells its own story. Taehyung was found outside his barracks sitting on the concrete ground, legs pulled to his chest, staring at the stars for over an hour. A superior officer approached, reportedly asked if he was ill. Taehyung's only response, "He didn't tell me." He didn't say a word. The guilt was instant. Because Taehyung had written a letter to Jimin days earlier, joking about their future reunion, teasing him about his cooking. He hadn't known. He thought everything was fine. Now he couldn't stop replaying every missed sign, every unanswered message. Jungkook, meanwhile, submitted a handwritten request to visit Jimin's camp. A request that was denied due to protocol. He didn't speak publicly. He didn't message fans. He just stopped.
No applause. No smiles.
Just silence. The fandom took notice, the note that wasn't meant to be seen. The most heart-wrenching clue came a week later when fans received a letter from Jimin through the official fan cafe. It was brief. Too brief. And eerily formal, but one line stood out. Some days the training is harder than I expected. But I'm still me. Even if that me is a little quieter now. A little quieter now. Fans wept. Armies trended hashtags within minutes. We love you, Jimin. Come back healthy. Tell him it's okay to rest. But Taehyung's silence remained. Until now. Because Jungkook, in a rare message sent through the fan communication platform, finally broke his silence. And what he said explains everything. The room where Jungkook received the restricted health notice was not some cold, clinical office. It was a small, fluorescent-lit corridor between training units. He had just completed a series of live-fire exercises and was scheduled to meet with a superior officer for a commendation. Instead, he was handed a sealed envelope. Inside, a health alert. Soldier's condition declining. Monitored for cardiac fatigue. Weight, 54 kilograms. Sleep disturbance. Consider mental health consult. No family contact recommended yet. No names. No photos. But Jungkook knew that he once said in an interview that he could tell how Jimin was feeling just by hearing him breathe. So when he read that notice, he wasn't reading a stranger's diagnosis. He was hearing Jimin's breath in the back of his mind, the one he heard trembling after a concert in 2019 when Jimin had nearly fainted from dehydration but insisted on finishing the encore. Jungkook folded the paper, tucked it into his uniform pocket, and sat still for 45 minutes in the common room, unmoving. Fellow soldiers passed by, but no one dared interrupt. This was the moment he realized Jimin had been hiding his pain again. I didn't know how to tell Taehyung without hurting him. In the message Jungkook sent to the fan app, a message now saved in thousands of screenshots around the world, he confessed something that no one expected from the golden magnate. He admitted fear. When I read that note, my hands were shaking. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I did. I knew he was in pain. I felt it before anyone said anything. But what destroyed me was knowing I had to be the one to tell Tae. And I knew he would fall apart. For the fans who see Jungkook as the strong one, the protector, the voice of steadiness, this was a startling confession. But for those who remember the bond between the three, Jimin, Taehyung, and Jungkook, this vulnerability was proof of something more profound. It wasn't just brotherhood. It was grief in slow motion to Taehyung's silence. The day the sun didn't rise for him. The day after Jungkook's call, Taehyung didn't report to morning drill. That's not just rare, it's unheard of. Military life is governed by time and order. If you miss a drill, it triggers a full inquiry. But when the officers found Taehyung, he wasn't asleep. He wasn't injured. He was fully dressed, seated on the floor of the hallway outside his sleeping quarters, knees up, eyes wide open, unmoving. He had sat there all night. When asked what was wrong, he simply said, "He needed me and I wasn't there." Taehyung's devastation wasn't loud. It was still. Like an earthquake that breaks everything beneath the surface but leaves buildings standing. And inside, everything collapsed. The letter Taehyung never sent. It wasn't long before fans began speculating about an unsent letter. A campmate of Taehyung's leaked the existence of a handwritten message that Taehyung wrote after Jungkook's call but chose not to send. It was left in his notebook, and someone found it. The letter has not been released to the public in full, but the source quoted several lines. "You always carry the weight alone. Why do you keep thinking we can't handle it? Why didn't you call me? I would have come. I would have broken every rule to hold your hand. And later, I made you laugh the day before you collapsed. You didn't tell me you were barely holding on. That's what hurts the most." Taehyung never intended this letter to be read, but it confirms what fans suspected all along. This wasn't just about worry. It was guilt. The crushing kind.